Alright, this is Mrs. Childers. We're going to work out the Algebra 1 practice test for Chapter 6. So let's start with the first page, the 1 through 5. These are your cumulative review questions. It says a culture of bacteria initially contains 260 bacteria. The number of bacteria doubles every 30 minutes. How many bacteria will there be in the culture after 1 hour? So I'm going to make a table for this one. I'm going to put my bacteria over here, and I'm going to put my time over here. So to begin with, at 0 minutes, we have 260. Then every 30 minutes, we're going to double. So from 360, we're going to end up with, at 30 minutes, we'll have 520. And then at 60 minutes, which is the hour that we're looking for, we will have 1,040. So C will be our answer. On number 2, it says, an electrician charges a $25 fee to make a house call plus an hourly rate for labor. If the total bill for a job takes 2 hours, if the total job that takes 2 hours comes to $82, what is the electrician's hourly rate? So let's start off with making an equation. If I have $25 that we add, I'm going to put X in for my hourly rate. So we did 2 hours, so I'm going to do 2 times our rate, and that's going to equal the total cost, which is 82. So from here, I can solve this by subtracting 25 on each side. And let's see, 82 minus 25 gives me 57. And when I divide by 2, my hourly rate is going to end up being 28.5, which is D, 28.50 an hour. For C, it says we want to find the roots of the quadratic. Since this is set up with equaling 0, that means we're ready to go ahead and graph it. There's lots of different ways you could solve this. You could do factoring. You could use the quadratic formula. But since we have our handy-dandy calculators, I think that would be the easiest. So once you get your calculator, we're going to go from the home screen, hit new document, don't save anything. We're going to go to add graphs, and we're just going to type in the x squared minus 10x plus 21. And when you hit enter, just remember the solutions of a quadratic are where you cross your x-axis. So right here at 3, and again at 7. So we should have an option of 3 and 7, which is option C. Okay, simplifying the following expression, you have 3 different sets of distributive properties. So 2 times A is 2A, 2 times 3B is 6B, and 2 times a negative C is negative 2C. Then here you have a negative 9 times A, so negative 9A. Then you have a negative 9 times 3, that becomes a negative 27B. And negative 9 times negative C gives you a positive 9C. And then your last one, 7 times A, 7 times 2B, and then 7 times negative C. Alright, so now let's go and combine all of our A's. So you got a 2A, you have a negative 9A, and you have a positive 7A. So that's going to cancel out, and you end up with no A's because that's 0. So then when you go to your B's, you have a 6B, a negative 27B, and a positive 14B. So you add all of those together, and you get a negative 7. I'm going to double check myself. So we said 6 plus a negative 27 plus a positive 14 gives me negative 7B. And you got a negative 2C, and a positive 9C, and a negative 7C. So again, those are going to cancel out. So after that big long expression, A is your final answer. Coming down to number 5, it says the line for y equals x plus 4 is shown on the coordinate grid below. What's the value of the y coordinate on the point if x is 21? So there's lots of different ways you can do this. You plug it into your calculator, pull up your table by hitting Control-T and looking for when x is 21, or you could plug 21 in for x and do 21 plus 4, which gives you 25. So D would be your answer. Going to the next part, which is number 6. We're going to tell whether this ordered pair is a solution to this system. So I'm going to start by plugging it into the top system. So remember, in an ordered pair, this is always x this is always y. So I'm going to have 2, maybe. I'm going to have 2 times a negative 2 minus 2 times a 4. And we're going to see if that equals a negative 12. This is going to give me a negative 4 here, and then this is going to give me a negative 8. And when you add these two together, you do get a negative 12. So for the first system, it works. Let's see if it works for the second system. We have negative 2 times a negative 2 plus 3 times 4. And I'm running out of room, but this should equal 16. So negative 2 times negative 2 gives me a positive 4, and 3 times 4 gives me a 12. And 4 plus 12 does equal 16. So since it is true for both, then yes, this is true, our solution for the entire system. All right, solve by graphing. So when you solve by graphing, you want to find the intersection point, which if you notice, they're all very similar. So if you use your calculator for this, we're going to type in both equations, so negative x plus 7, and hit enter. And then I'm going to hit tab to get the second function up. I'm going to hit negative 2 thirds x plus 5. And move some things around here so I can see it a little bit better. Oop, that's not what I wanted. Alright, I'm going to retype this in. There we go. Okay. There we go. So right here, it looks like we're at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and a positive 1. So that's what we need to look for. When we come here, we want a 6 and a positive 1, which looks like D. On number 8, down here at the bottom, we got a word problem. It says, Fun Guys Game Rental Store charges an annual fee of $10 plus $5.50 per game rented. The game bank charges an annual fee of $28 plus $2.50 per game for how many games? So there's in your question what your X is going to stand for. It's going to stand for your number of games. Will it cost be the same at both stores? And then what will that cost be? So let's start with the Fun Guys game. They did 10 plus $5.50 per game. Per means you're multiplying, so $5.50 times X. The game bank did $28 plus $2.50 per game. And we want them to be the same, which means we want them to equal each other. So we're going to solve this. So we're going to start by moving 250x by subtracting it on each side. So we'll be left with 3x. 10 plus 3x equals 28. And then I'm going to move the 10 by subtracting it and doing the opposite. So I end up with 3x equals 18. Divide by 3. X is going to equal 6. So if I look, that's the only one with 6 games is B. But when you plug 6 into either equation, doesn't matter which one you use because they're the same at this point, you're going to get $43. All right, number 9. We're going to solve this one again by graphing. So on our calculators, if I plug this in, we're going to have x minus 1. Then I'm going to have negative 3. Oops, I forgot to hit tab. Don't forget to hit tab. There we go. So now I'm ready to type in negative 3 halves x plus 14. Alrighty, so again I'm going to kind of move things around so I can kind of see it. Alrighty, so it looks like when I count, we're at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we're going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's see if we got that on our solution here. We went over 6 and up 5. So 6, 5 looks like it's going to be A. Alright, solving by substitution. So I notice immediately that my y equals x plus 4, which means I can take this expression and plug it in for y up here. So then I'm going to end up with 2x plus that expression, x plus 4, and that's going to equal negative 5. So I'm going to combine my like terms, which will give me 3x plus 4 equals negative 15. Oh, I don't know why I wrote 15. It should be negative 5. Negative 5. Negative 5. Negative 5. Alrighty. Now we're ready to go. We're going to subtract 4, since that's the opposite of adding it. We're going to end up with 3x equals negative 9. Divide by 3, since that's the opposite of multiplying. And x is going to equal a negative 3. So I'm going to stop here and look to see if any of my x's are a negative 3 and only b is. So since it's a multiple choice test, you could stop here. But if it wasn't, if you had 2 that had negative 3, you would have to plug x back into here. And you would do y equals negative 3 plus 4, which means y equals 1. Boom. Right, number 11. It says to simply solve for x's and tell you which way you need to do it. I would do elimination just because you have a negative x and a positive x. So when you go to add these equations, it's going to eliminate the x, but you can solve for y and then figure out x easily later. So let's see. 6y plus 3y gives you 9y. And then if I do negative 46 plus 35, we're going to get a negative 46 plus negative 35 gives you a negative 81. So you divide by 9, and y is going to equal a negative 9. And notice, they have that option here, and they set you up to eliminate x on purpose to try to trip you up. So don't let that trip you up, because it wants you to solve not for y, it wants you to solve for x. So you still have more work to do. So I'm going to pick the bottom equation, since x is positive, and I'm going to look for x here. So x plus 3 times negative 9 equals negative 35. So I'm going to simplify this. I'm going to get a negative 27. So the opposite of adding a negative 27 is adding a positive 27. So x is going to equal negative 35 plus a 27, which gives us a negative 8. So the answer is not B, it is really C. So don't let them trip you up on that one when you go to take the real test. Alright, we probably have time for one more for this part of the video. Janice is going on vacation and needs to leave her dog at a kennel. Minimum you can get a kennel charges $15 per day plus $20 for a processing fee. The Pup Palace charges $12 per day and has a $35 processing fee. After how many days is the Pup Palace going to be cheaper, which means less than the other guys? I'm just going to say NK for whatever that word is. Alright, so the Pup Palace, if we look for the Pup Palace, they did 12 per day, and it says for how many days. So again, this tells me what my x is going to stand for. So I'm going to have 12 times x, and then also that processing fee, which you only pay once. I'm just going to add it one time. And then the other guys, the other kennel, they do 15 per day plus a $20 processing fee. So I'm going to solve this one now. Let's see if I subtract 12x on each side. I'm going to end up with 35 less than 3x plus 20. Now I'm going to move 20 to the other side by doing the opposite. So I'm going to end up with 15 less than 3x. So then I'm going to divide by 3, which means 5 is less than x. But we normally don't say it that way. We would say x is greater than 5. So, so that means that for the Pup Palace to be cheaper, it has to be more than 5 days. So if I look here, it says never cheaper, cheaper if it's after 5 days. That means more than 5 days. And that's the only one that says that. So B would be your solution, or your answer. Alright, we're going to stop here, and there'll be a second video, a part B video, that will do 13 through 23, and then the short answer.